I've been dating this guy for a year. Otherwise, nice, handsome, funny, good job. But he has a cat that he's had for years that I think he's way too attached to and affectionate about. If the cat is sitting on his lap, he'll avoid getting up unless he has to, citing the cat being asleep, or in his terms, she's catting. He's asked me to get him stuff from the kitchen when I get a drink, when he could just move the cat himself. Sometimes he'll be at the computer, on the couch, or even lying in bed, and the cat will jump on him. Or he'll come home when I'm already there since I have a key, and sometimes get off work before, and the cat will run to greet him. What bothers me is in these instances he's said, more than once, "There's my girl," and stop what he's doing to scratch the cat behind its ears or pet it or whatever. This seems like way too much attention for a grown man to be lavishing on a cat of all things. I've considered suggesting he get rid of it, but he's had it for something like 7 years and don't know if he'd give it up. Do I have any options here? Now for a few comments. One commenter asked, "What the actual frick? You think he's too nice to his cat? He loves his pet. It brings him joy. Why the frick would that be a problem? Why do you begrudge him something that makes him happy? You can break up with the guy and frick right off." The original poster replied, "I'm really overwhelmed by the responses I'm getting. I thought his behavior was abnormal towards a pet." Another commenter said, "That's a very normal cat ownership behavior. He loves his kitty. I can't tell if this is a troll. It seems like a very weird thing to be so perturbed by. If you're already going to the kitchen, why would it bother you to grab him something from that room? Absolutely. You can't suggest someone get rid of a pet because they love it too much. If y'all had issues with the cat's behavior or allergies, maybe getting rid of the cat could be a discussion you could have, but he sometimes doesn't get up because the cat is on his lap, and he often pets the cat and is happy to see her when he gets home. And you want him to get rid of the cat? The longer I think on this, the more troll I'm getting from this post. But regardless, if you can't accept his relationship, a pretty healthy, normal one, with his pet, who he's had 7x longer than he's known you, then this relationship just isn't for you, and you should move on. If it's a jealousy issue, or an issue where you feel like he's relying on you too heavily to pick up his slack around the house, then maybe it's couples therapy time. But otherwise, his behavior with his pet seems super normal. The original poster responded, "It's normal to lavish attention on an animal like that? To call a cat my girl when his girlfriend is 10 feet away? That honestly just seems weird to me." Another commenter added, "I think you have some issues with what you define as a grown man. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing, and I can't tell if it's jealousy or if you have some weird seated ideals of masculinity. Was your father, grandfather, or other male role model critical of showing affection in any way, maybe towards animals? Or do you ever feel your partner doesn't give you enough attention? Maybe you feel like he doesn't value you as much as you want him to somehow? I think the answer to one of these questions is the real seed of these feelings." The original poster replied, "My father and brother have a utilitarian approach to dogs. We've never had cats. Dogs are for hunting and home protection. They displayed some affection for them, but I never saw them get upset when it was time for a dog to be put down. My boyfriend is affectionate towards me. We cuddle and have intimacy plenty. I'm not complaining about that." Then the commenter continued, "All right, I'm going with hypothesis number 1. You're worried your boyfriend would be sad if he had to put down his cat, and that means he doesn't fit your schema of how a masculine partner should act. Meanwhile, we're on the subject of sexist attitudes. Does he expect you to live up to traditional female behaviors? Does he expect dinner on the table the minute he walks in the door? What about doing all the cooking and cleaning? Those are also gender attitudes. Are you living up to your expectations since you hold him to his?" The original poster answered, "No, I'm not expected to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. It's 2017, not 1955. I'll sometimes cook, but he does that more often. Yeah, he'd probably be sad if he had to put the cat down. Hell, he just spent like $600 on some vet stuff for the cat a few weeks ago. We had a big argument when I asked if euthanasia was cheaper or not. My dad never shelled out money like that on vets. Now for the update. Yesterday, I posted about concerns I had with the way I thought my boyfriend was overly affectionate with his cat. I, like the rest of my family, view pets in a utilitarian light. I'm just not comfortable with a lot of affection being displayed towards an animal, even if it's supposedly normal. I gave it consideration during and after the thread and decided to break up with my boyfriend. When I broached the topic and the reason his response was, "Oh, good. To be honest, I've been trying to figure out the most tactful way to break it off since our argument where you wanted me to euthanize my cat to save money. I also wanted to take time to think about if I was sure I thought we were done. You can give me your apartment key back now and have your stuff out by Friday night. I'll buzz you in if you can't finish tonight." So I guess that's it. That was abrupt. Now for a few comments. One commenter asked, "What the frick is wrong with you?" The original poster replied, "That argument was pretty recent. He'd been a bit distant since it and made it clear it was a big part of why he was done. He actually called me a witch during the argument at the time he kicked me out of the apartment." Another commenter asked, "I really hope you can see why your behavior is so disturbing. Where are you from?" The original poster answered, "I'm from the upper Midwest, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota. I'm not some Nebraska hillbilly." Another commenter noted, "Even hillbillies love their pets." Am I the idiot for dumping my boyfriend after finding out he had an affair with my mom? My boyfriend Derek and I met through mutual friends 6 months ago, and we immediately hit it off. He is sweet, funny, kind, and just generally a good guy. He is super extroverted, and I have never seen him dislike or not click with anyone. I mentioned him to my parents a couple of times, and they said they were excited to meet him. My parents live a road trip away, so Derek and I booked a hotel nearby. About 2 weeks ago, we dropped all of our stuff in the hotel and arrived at my parents' house. My parents are the most welcoming people you'll ever meet. They have met some of my past significant others and have always been warm and kind. Since both my parents and Derek are charismatic and welcoming, I thought that dinner would go smoothly, but I was wrong. It didn't start off too bad. My parents and Derek seemed a bit awkward, but I assumed he was just nervous. We sat for dinner, and my parents asked us a couple of questions. How did we meet? How serious is the relationship? Etc. I've never seen Derek stutter or hesitate before this dinner, but he did. As soon as I finished eating, he thanked my parents for dinner and said we had to go. It felt like he was rushing to get out of the house. When we got to the hotel room, he ran to the bathroom, and I heard him throw up. He said he felt sick and was going to head back home, but insisted I stay and enjoy the rest of the trip without him. I agreed since I really missed my parents, and he seemed to want to be alone. I texted him a couple of times asking how he was doing and if he felt better, but he didn't reply. After 2 days passed, I started to get really worried that maybe he was really sick and had to go to the hospital or something, so I cut the trip short and headed back home. I went to his apartment and saw he was okay. I asked him how he was doing and why he wasn't replying, and he said he felt fine and that I was overreacting. He told me he still felt sick and wanted to be alone. I went back home and texted him asking if I did anything wrong and if our relationship was okay since he was acting so weird and cold. A week has gone by since the text message and he has not replied. Derek is the last person I'd expect to ghost me. I'm torn between wanting to give him space and wanting answers. How do I even reach out to him without pushing him further away? Now for a few comments. A commenter asked, "It was a road trip together, but they could leave separately? Did her parents take her home? Something's missing." I replied, "Sorry, I just realized that's unclear. He took a cab home, 4 to 5 hour drive." Now for the 1 week update. Hey Reddit, sorry I didn't reply to that many of your comments. They were mostly just saying Derek was secretly my brother, which is horrifying, so I wasn't sure how to reply. I tried to reply to questions when I saw them pop up. The past few days have been a mess, but now that everything is settled, I thought I would go on here and update all of you. I took your advice and decided to speak to my parents rather than Derek to discover if maybe they said anything or knew each other in the past, like many of you suggested they might. 4 days ago, I called my mom and told her about Derek's weird reaction after our dinner. I asked her for advice, or if she knew what happened. She was silent for a moment, and I heard her start crying. She started apologizing, and I didn't understand what she was trying to tell me at first. Eventually, I got her to calm down, and she told me what had happened. My mom is a high school teacher, and apparently, Derek was her student in his senior year, and she told me that they had an affair. She didn't give me that many details. Honestly, I don't even want to know. All she said is that they only slept together once before she shut it down, and that my father knew, and they had attended couples counseling years ago to work through this. She cried a lot and said it was her greatest regret. Then she told me she wanted me to break it off with Derek because he brought back really awful memories, and she found the age gap concerning. She's one to talk about age gaps. But ultimately, she said it was my decision, and she didn't want her past mistakes to ruin my relationship. I went to Derek's apartment again, and he invited me in. He said he had to tell me something, but I stopped him and told him I had already talked to my mom and knew everything. He promised me he had no idea up until the point we had come over for dinner, where he immediately recognized her. He apologized for ghosting me and said he just didn't know what to say and was scared that he would ruin my relationship with my parents or maybe ruin their marriage. I forgave him but told him that the whole situation was just way too messy for me, and he agreed. So yeah, that's how my past few days have gone down. Honestly, I do kind of miss Derek, but not too much, since the whole banging my mom thing is a massive turnoff. Thank you for all the replies. I feel like I will never see my mom the same again. How can I work on rebuilding our relationship and trust moving forward? Am I the idiot for locking my narcissistic aunt in the car to stop her dangerous escapades? My aunt, who is 33, lives with my family, and I'm 16. She has me drive her around, but refuses to sit in the front passenger seat because she wants to act like it's a taxi situation. It's annoying, but I haven't said anything. The other day, we were in a packed restaurant drive-thru, and my aunt got out of the car. I asked what she was doing, and she said she was getting claustrophobic. I told her to stay in the car so she doesn't get hit by another vehicle. She ignored me and got out anyway. When I pulled up to the drive-thru window, I got out and put the child lock on the back doors. She's done this several times before and has almost gotten hit. Once, her foot was run over, and she blamed me even though it was another car. After getting our food, my aunt got back in, and we hit a traffic jam on the main road. She tried to get out again and found she was child-locked. She started screaming and cussing at me, calling me names and demanding I let her out. So, when I could pull over, I did and told her to call someone else for a ride home. I left her at a gas station. When I got home, my parents asked where my aunt was. I explained what happened, and my mom said I was right, but my dad flipped out. He told me to pick her up, and I refused, saying I was done driving her around because she acts like a toddler. He called me a spoiled witch and went to pick her up himself. Now, for a few important comments. One commenter criticized me, asking why I locked her in if I was fine driving off without her. I responded that I didn't want to get pulled over with her screaming in the back seat. Another commenter asked if my dad ruined my life for standing up to his sister. I said he took the car keys from me, but I'm not sure if that counts as ruining my life. Someone else asked why she doesn't drive herself, and I explained she doesn't have a license and refuses to get one. A top commenter said, "Who gets out of the car in the middle of a traffic jam? Don't drive her anymore. If she wants a chauffeur, she can hire one." Now for the 1-year update. Not long after the original post, my mom and dad split. Mom took me, and we moved halfway across the country. They're in the process of getting divorced, and it's surprisingly civil. My dad put my car in my mom's name, and I have it again. I found out my aunt was diagnosed as a narcissist. Their relationship was creepy when we lived there. Definitely not a normal sibling relationship. Worse, my aunt got caught stalking my mom and me before we moved. She even threatened to unalive my mom several times. She was doing it frequently, but now only semi-frequently. My mom is trying to get a restraining order. It's difficult, but Mom and I are doing okay. She plans to put me into therapy soon because I've been taking this hard. She thinks I have anxiety and wants to make sure I'm really okay.